Hey there. You're watching the Jessa Channel on YouTube. I'm Jessa, and today I am here with more Skyrim. Kinlen and her companions have made their way here to Helgen after rescuing Korst from a Thalmor prison. They also took the time to clear out some Thalmor who were infesting the Cyrodiil border, killing merchants, and otherwise preventing trade and passage back to Cyrodiil. Kinlen has come back a bit injured. She has been holding her side, a bit of blood pouring through her armor. The armor that she had to wear to do this most recent infiltration was not as good as her normal armor, and therefore she suffered some undue injury. In any case, we're going to continue on with the story, but before we do so, I have an announcement to make. As you know, I have read audiobooks throughout Kinlen's story. When she is traveling, occasionally when she sits by the campfire. There is a wonderful podcast called Skyrim Book Club, which reads as audiobooks all of the books of Skyrim. The creator of this wonderful podcast, Steve, has granted me permission to be able to bring his audiobooks here to you to share as part of Kinlen's story. So now, sometimes when we are camping in a location which may have a book that has been recorded on the Skyrim Book Club, I will be playing it for you here in the background as we read the book. We're going to aim for books that are between 3 and 5 minutes or so, and they will be books that are of interest to Kinlen. So we will be reading a book later on in this episode, and I want to give very grateful thanks to Steve at the Skyrim Book Club for his wonderful gift of allowing me to have these audiobooks featured on the channel. There's a link to his website and to his Twitter. You can also visit that website by heading right over to skyrimbookclub.ca or visiting him on Twitter at Skyrim Book Club. Thanks, Steve. Let's head back into the story. As you can see, Kinlen is here wearing her usual armor. But that cut she definitely got when she was wearing the Imperial armor, in which she was pretending to be an Imperial legate, high-ranking Imperial legate, who she has seen around Castle Dower and around the Blue Palace, named Legate Breveldin, who is, by all accounts, an arrogant woman, definitely. Kinlen uses her unwounded left arm to pull open the doors of Helgen Keep. This is such a forbidding place for some reason. Maybe all the bears' heads. I wonder if that's an area up there that we can get to and somehow use for living quarters. I think also the fact that so much of it seems as if it may fall down at any moment. Ah, well. Valgus, she calls over Korst's shoulder. Valgus, please tend to the dogs, and also, if you could gather water so we can make a compress, perhaps. I'll need to clean up. We all will, actually. And the dogs could use a rub-down. Korst, Sienna, Falco, you're with me. Kinlen sighs to herself and hobbles a bit. The pain is not too bad at the current moment, but the arm, it stings so. That fire that the mage used in that tower, the Hollow Tooth, it was magical, definitely of nature, but it burned as if it or any normal fire. Very powerful mage. Kinlen tries to avoid the dust. Shakes it out of her hair. Valerius? Marcus? Valerius, I return.
So you're Dragonborn. I never believed in all that nonsense. I've always trusted my instinct, and my steel.
Despite this face mask that I wear, that resembles, in a way, a dragon, I am not Dragonborn, nor have I ever met one. I have yet to even see a dragon, though I have heard rumors. Anyway, never mind that. I have brought along a friend to see you. Put down your cup and say hello to Korst.
Shore's bones, I see now why Marcus has spoken so highly of you. Quite impressive. Now, let's see if we can find out what in the name of Akatosh is going on in that prison. Korst, thank the gods you're safe. But how in Oblivion were you even captured?
I don't know how they found me. It's like they knew exactly where I was hiding. I never had a chance to escape.
Well, thanks to our new friend, you're okay now. Tell me what you learned.
It's a prison, all right, and it's heavily guarded inside. Well, it was heavily guarded. There are none alive in there now. The commandant was never there that I could tell.
Did anyone mention where he was?
I overheard the guards joking about him getting soft in their embassy and spending too much time with some whore from the Tormas Tavern. But that's all I could hear them say.
Did you learn anything else?
Well, I didn't think much of it at the time, but I overheard the guard talking about how many prisoners were coming and going from the prison. And I noticed several new prisoners abruptly get taken away while I was there, just like he said. And they were not tortured, beaten, or starved either. I guess they saved all of that for me. And wait. Yes. One group had a family, a woman and a small child, but he was not old enough to fight. The guard was joking about raping the woman and selling the child to bandits as a slave. Could that be true? They are selling slaves?
Well now, that's certainly a lot to chew on. Excellent work, old friend. I'll check and see if any of my sources know about any of this. Thank you, Korst. You go get something to eat and some sleep. I need you well rested. Dismissed. You've done me a great service, friend. You saved his life, and for that I will never be able to repay you. Is there anything else you can add?
Kinlen considers, tapping one finger on her chin. No. The leader that was there, the man in charge. He was a mage user. Weak, though. A couple of poisons and a good strong blade took him down with no problem. There's one thing. It was odd. But no, Korst's report was accurate.
Did you hear anything about slaves?
Well, now that you mention it, that was the odd thing that occurred to me. I heard no mention of slaves, but the prison was huge. And there were many empty cells. In fact, there was no one else there except for Korst. Some of the cells had been empty for some time. There was no smell of blood or the stink of the unwashed there. But other cells had been used quite recently. However, as I said, Korst was the only prisoner.
That is odd, isn't it? So it looks like the elves are up to no good. Where else to easily kidnap people than in Skyrim? All they have to say is that they're worshipping Talos. I'm sure many of these enforcers skulking about in Skyrim are under their command. I know you've had a long day, and I won't keep you. We'll let you know when we have anything new. But please, check in with Marcus as soon as you can. Thank you again, my friend.
Of course, Val. It was an honor. Oh, and by the way, Falco and Sienna are both able warriors. They're good to be on your side. Marcus, I believe I will check in with you in the morning. Marcus nods over his shoulder.
Hello. I was wondering if I could talk to you for a second.
Kinlen turns around to see Sienna walking up to her for a chat. Sure, of course.
I just wanted to introduce myself mostly. I'm Sienna. There, formal introduction over. I feel better now, don't you?
Well, I believe having fought side by side, we were already properly introduced. But we haven't had a chance to talk as much. Tell me a bit about yourself.
Well, I like moonlit walks through the old ruins, candlelit workshops, and the feel of cold steel in my hand. You know, the same stuff as other women.
So I'm not even sure, like, what a candlelit workshop is. Like, is that like a class everybody joins around? I don't know. Well, I will say that I have not met many women who are as good with their weapons as you are, and your illusion and healing talents are quite good as well. You seem quite different than other women.
I'm not quite sure how to take that, so I'll take it as a compliment.
It was meant as a compliment. Is there anything else more you wish to share with me?
If you're wondering how I ended up with a bunch of old soldiers from the Great War, they saved my life. When the elves burnt our farm, my parents hid me in a basket in the woods. Balfring found me and gave me to an orphanage until the war in Hammerfell was over. But he kept in touch through the years, and when I was old enough to be on my own, I joined them. He taught me everything I know about fighting, and especially armoring. Say, from what I saw at the prison, you know how to handle yourself out there. But if you ever want any company, come and get me, okay?
Thank you, Sienna. Kinlen gives a nod to Marcus in respect and walks out. She listens to the talk as Falco and Sienna, Valerius and Korst get reacquainted. Their talk fades away as she climbs the stairs. Oh, by Malakath, I am tired. Ah, Valgus. Valgus stands to greet her. Let's go out and take care of these wounds, shall we? It's a beautiful evening. I don't feel up with this arm to chopping any firewood, so I will sit here till Valgus goes to get some for me. Kinlen rests her weary bones on the stump that sits outside of their tent, and then calls to Valgus. Valgus, will you get me some firewood, please, if you would? Take the hounds with you. They could use a little bit of the fresh air. Valgus nods and heads out, and sometime later returns with an armload of firewood. He walks over to the fire and tends it, sort of clumping, how do you say? Putting the firewood up in a way that it will burn hottest, and takes out a pot to begin boiling some water. Kinlen walks in to help him. Now, I have tried to get my followers to start the campfire, and unfortunately, I cannot do that with this particular mod using their the follower command menu. So Kinlen's going to make it. It's a very small price to pay for having an otherwise very easy to use mod, and very good. Miko backs up as Kinlen tries to get out of the tent. She listens to and idly pats Miko's head and listens to Valgus as he tends the fire. And soon he comes over with boiling water, hot compresses, and begins to take a look at her wound. With very gentle fingers, he pulls open and unstraps the armor at her side and gently lifts it up, murmuring to himself, "This burn is going to need a salve." His gentle fingers touch the bruised and bloodied area around Kinlen's side. "Well, lucky for you, you escaped. A broken rib, it seems. But this cut is going to take a few days. A compress will help. I don't want you to try and take any sponge bathing or do a lot of bending right now. You'll have to simply stay dirty. I'll clean this area around the cut and salve up that arm of yours. And then we'll have some dinner, and I expect you to be to bed early." Some time passes while he takes care of Kinlen's wounds. And Kinlen, the pain slowly easing, thanks Valgus and begins to take out dinner, which Valgus will heat on the fire. Suddenly, after the smell of the stew calls over Sienna and Val to share dinner with them and chat about Cyrodiil and what's been happening down south. Kinlen shares her beef stew, some egg, a crostata, and Valgus presses a gray quarter tea into her hands, saying, "The Grey Elves, or I should say, the elves of the Grey Quarter, were always very, very good with making a fine tea, which will soon help with knitting that wound." Kinlen takes the tea gratefully and starts to pour some milk in. Valgus stops her and says, "The tea is best. Without anything else, we do not want to delete the healing properties. Or dilute the healing properties, I should say." Kinlen nods and drinks down the tea. It's oddly delicious, but it has an aftertaste, a little bitterness to it. But Kinlen cradles the bowl and drinks down the tea. She finishes off their dinner by having a lot of water. She's very thirsty. And decides, after dinner, to grab a book. "Valgus, thank you for all your help. Feel free to rest. I wonder if there are any books in here." Kinlen looks wistfully at the beds, but then knows and respects that they are for Valerius's soldiers and companions. She looks around and then notices a book on the shelf. "Ah, perfect. What is this?" "Mixed Unit Tactics in the 5 Years' War, Volume 1, by Codus Colonus." She flips through a few pages. "This will do nicely," and then takes the book. "By the way, while I am at it, I will open this path between the two rooms, making it easier for us to pass through without having to go around into the cold. If Val had some tactical reason for this to be closed, then well, I suppose he can close it again." Kinlen idly scratches at her scalp, an itchy spot, and then says, I'm very looking forward to getting this color out of my hair. It itches a bit." "Ah, Scout. Good girl. Here, share this with Miko." Kinlen throws a few treats down, and Scout takes hers, and Miko comes over to get his. Good evening, Balfring. Oh, how beautiful. Somehow, the sky here in Skyrim, it seems clearer than it does in Cyrodiil. Though, of course, a shooting star for good luck, as my mother would always say. I could use it, to be honest. Kinlen sits down on her log and takes out her book to read. Once again, we will be listening to Steve from Skyrim Book Club at skyrimbookclub.ca and on Twitter at Skyrim Book Club. Read to us Mixed Unit Tactics. I will turn the pages so that we can all read along with Steve. Enjoy the book. Oh, and by the way, this book is about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Enjoy.
Mixed Unit Tactics by Korst Kalonis, a book about the strategies of the Khajiit during the 5 Years' War. The legions could learn from the unconventional tactics used by the Khajiit in the 5 Years' War against Valenwood. I was stationed at Sphinx Moth Legion Fort on the border near Dune and witnessed many of the northern skirmishes firsthand. The war started with the so-called Slaughter of Torval. The Khajiit claimed that the Bosmer invaded the city without provocation and killed over 1,000 citizens before being driven off by reinforcements from a nearby jungle tribe. The Bosmer claimed that the attack was in retaliation for Khajiiti bandits who were attacking wood caravans headed for Valenwood. In the spring of 3rd Era 396, the war moved closer to Fort Sphinx Moth. I was posted on lookout and saw parts of the conflict. I later spoke with both Khajiit and Bosmer who fought in the battle, and it will serve as an excellent example of how the Khajiit use a mixture of ground and tree units to win the war. The Khajiit began the fight in an unusual way by sending tree-cutting teams of Cathay Rat and the fearsome Sencha Rat, or Battle Cats, into the outskirts of Valenwood's forests. When word reached the Bosmer that trees were being felled, allegedly a crime in the strange Bosmeri religion, a unit of archers were dispatched from larger conflicts in the south. The Bosmer were thus goaded into splitting their forces into smaller groups. The Bosmer archers took up positions in the remaining trees whose branches were now 20 or more feet apart, allowing some light into the forest floor. The Bosmer bent the remaining trees with their magics into small fortifications from which to fire their bows. When the tree cutters arrived the next morning, a half-dozen Khajiit fell to the Bosmer arrows in the first volley. After that, the Khajiit took large wooden shields from the backs of the Sencha Rat and made a crude shelter. The Khajiit, even the enormous Sencha Rat, were able to hide between this shelter and one of the larger trees. When it became apparent that the Khajiit would not leave their shelter, some Bosmer chose to descend and engage the Khajiit sword to claw. When the Bosmer were nearly upon the shelter, one of the Khajiit began playing on a native instrument of plucked metal bars. This was a signal of some kind, and a small group of the man-like Ohms and Ohmsrat emerged from covered holes on the forest floor. Although outnumbered, they were attacking from behind by surprise and won the ground quickly. The Bosmer archers in the trees would have still won the battle were they not having troubles of their own. A group of Dagi and Dagirat, two of the less common forms of Khajiit who live in the trees of the Tenmar forest, jumped from one tree to another under a magical cover of silence. They took up positions in the higher branches that could not hold a Bosmer's weight. When the signal came, they used their claws and either torches or spells of fire — accounts from the two survivors I spoke with vary on this point — to distract the archers while the battle on the ground took place. A few of the archers were able to flee, but most were killed. Apparently, the Dagi and Dagirat have more magical ability than is widely believed if they were able to keep themselves magically silenced for so long. One of the surviving Bosmer told me that he saw a few ordinary cats amongst the Dagi, and even claimed that these ordinary cats are known as Alfiq, and that they were the spellcasters. But Bosmer are almost as unreliable as the Khajiit when it comes to the truth, and I cannot believe that a house cat can cast spells. At the end of the day, the Khajiit lost perhaps a half a dozen fighters out of a force of no more than 4 dozen, while the Bosmer lost nearly an entire company of archers. The survivors were unable to report back before a second company of archers arrived, and this strategy was repeated again, with similar results. Finally, a much larger force was sent, and the Bosmer won that battle with the help of the native animals of Valenwood. That third skirmish, and the Khajiiti response, I will discuss in the second volume of this series.
Kinlen looks back over the pages of the book, trying to digest what she has read. It seems that the tactics here are first to split the forces into smaller groups. And then, it seems here, over here, it says that taking large wooden shields from the backs of the fallen Sincharat. I see. So using what the enemy has given you to your advantage, forcing the other party to have to descend from the place at which they were most comfortable. And then, of course, attacking from behind by surprise. But this tale talks about a house cat of some sort. Well, I have yet to find a house cat who can cast spells, but if I run across one, I will certainly enlist him into my fighting force. I will take note of these and see if I can use them in some way in our battle down in the rift. Oh, now I am tired. It is time to rest. As you can see, Kinlen is quite dirty as she looks down at Scout and gives her a little pat. Miko, always waiting for her to come to bed so that he may snuggle with her. Kinlen, time for the bedroll if we can get her to be there. She might have a problem with this. Yeah, she didn't like that. There we go. Got there in the end. That is part of Go to Bed, a mod which I've had in for quite a long time. You can, as always, check my mod list out in the description below. Kinlen lays her weary head down on the bedroll, which, even on the hard ground, is still soft and comfortable. Miko curls up next to her, and she falls into a deep sleep with vivid dreams. She hears Malakath's voice saying, "Fight well, young daughter, fight well." And she wakes with a start to the sound of rain hitting the top of the tent. Her right side is sore and tight, and with some difficulty she gets to her feet. Let's see if there's enough wood to start a campfire. Nope. Let's find out how much wood it's using per burn. I got 4 pieces of wood, and it's now given me... Oh, it took all 4 pieces. Oh, I see. So it's 4 per burn. Okay, got it. So, she is going to, once again, ask Valgus to grab some more wood from around the keep if he can find any. And after some searching, he comes up with a pile of firewood. So next time I know to get 8 if I want to have some burn firewood in the morning as well too. With the fire crackling merrily to keep out a bit of the cold from this sudden late or early frostfall storm, Kinlen's going to have some breakfast sitting on her mat, not wanting to sit outside, plus Valgus already has the 1 seat available. And we're going to partake of what's left available in the pack. Of course, some Orsinian battle tea. And Valgus insists that she finish the Grey Quarter tea this morning, which she does, without too much complaint. She's going to have a stuffed gourd and hard-boiled egg, and more water. Quite thirsty still. She throws out some jerky to the dogs. And we'll need to now go and talk to Marcus Janus. Kinlen eats slowly, taking her time with breakfast. And so this is an amusing thing. If I want to move Kinlen, move to first person, it works great. However, if I want her to get up and I just do like this, she'll just move forward. Like, look, she's crawling on her butt. Yeah. The only way to get her out of that is to... make her jump. Otherwise, she'll just scoot through Skyrim on her bottom. There's a character concept for you. Valerius, good morning. I hope that you do not mind that I open the way between, for easier access.
Never been a religious man myself, but people should be able to worship as they please, or not at all if they choose to.
He mentions that he does not mind, and then shares a little bit of his thoughts on why he and his companions are here, believing that people should worship as they choose to. Kinlen nods, not really wanting to share her particular religious views so early in the morning. I trust Marcus is downstairs. Not really waiting for an answer. Whoop. Kinlen's going to head downstairs. Not really in the mood to run. Too much pain at the moment. Though the tea that she had is easing the pain and loosening her sore spots. To her disappointment, Marcus does not seem to be downstairs. Could he still be abed? Kinlen waits for the dust to settle. Oh, he could not possibly. No man who is a soldier would be abed at 11 in the morning. Maybe they're all talking or having breakfast or early lunch. So if you do not remember, he is having breakfast. Marcus. Kinlen joins him. You needed to speak with me before I go. Marcus puts down his tankard and looks at her.
Dragonborn. I always heard the legends in my childhood, but we always thought they were fairy tales. But they're true.
He says to Kinlen, yes, I did want to see you.
I praise the Nine you came along. Your help thus far has been invaluable, but it's time to make some difficult choices. Valerius and I have spoken at length about this, and we value your opinion. We need more guards for the hold, as there's only a few of us right now. We're vulnerable to attack from several fronts, especially from the entrance through the caves, as well as the two main gates. There is no possible way that laborers and carpenters can begin their work if they're not able to do so safely. We need more guards.
So you are serious about rebuilding Helgen, then? I'm glad to hear it, as I am as well. I'm wondering... Kinlen considers for a moment. My father, whom you know well... he may be able to help us. He may be able to lend us some of the soldiers who are at Castle Dower, or even some laborers from the City of Solitude. I understand the war has things thin, but I may be able to get some help from him on behalf of the Empire.
While we prefer independence, there are advantages and disadvantages to seeking help from the Empire. The obvious advantage is that Helgen was once an Imperial fort. I'm still amazed they let it go so quickly, after the dragon attack. My guess is that it would be a nice little victory for Tullius to reoccupy the fort. It's certainly a very strategic location here in the south. So there's no doubt that getting this hold back into their possession will boost his troops' morale. Are you certain this is the route you wish to take? Once you decide, there's no going back. So please, choose wisely.
Though I understand your need to perhaps not get involved in Skyrim's Civil War, as it were. I am an Imperial through and through, as my father is, as well you know. Therefore, I am only interested in rebuilding Helgen and giving you some of the supplies and manpower you need if it's under the Imperial banner. I have made my decision. We will ask Father and the Empire for help.
Very well then. You'll need to contact an old friend of ours. His name is Shadrik Oakenheart. According to Valerius, he's still on active duty and has a camp near Winterhold. Pull him to the side and tell him my sword sings with the heart of Frandar Hunding. He'll no doubt be shocked. But he'll also know what it means. Tell him we need his help, and report back to me when you can.
Kinlen takes out her journal and quickly writes down the information. I think this is it here. New? Nope. Yes. My sword sings. I believe it was to the heart of Frandar Hunding. After writing it down, I'm glad that you're keeping this place clean. I have great faith that we will be able to make Helgen even better than it was before. I will see you soon. I have business to take care of in the south. I will send word when I have spoken to Father. Oh, Valga, staying out here in the rain must not be any fun for you. Miko has been sitting by the fire, but he comes out to greet Kinlen, and she and Valgus take down the tent. Though the rain might take some of the dirt off me, I do not relish getting completely nude in it and washing in a barrel or a bucket behind there. I wonder what the most nearby town is. Ah, Riverwood. Or Falkreath. After some consideration, Kinlen decides to make her way to the southwest to Falkreath. In fact, as I consider it, there is a good alchemy shop there, whereas in Riverwood there is not one. Ready, Valgus? If you could help me put on my cloak, I'm still a bit stiff. Kinlen walks through the ruins of Helgen, imagining what it could look like if a real town were here. What a feather in my cap this will be. And, as Marcus mentioned, it would be a morale booster as well. You know, I don't think I feel like jostling on a cart right now. Even though it's raining, I'd rather walk and stretch out my ribs inside. I think it'd be easier than jostling. So we're going to mark this location here. There's she might have to go through and fight a few bandits on the way, but we will place a marker here. Ah, there. And Kinlen makes her way out of Helgen for Falkreath. I am going to end this episode here. I am so glad you joined me for this episode. If you enjoyed what you saw, please hit the thumbs up button below. And if you loved it, including those new audiobooks we're going to get to read, then join the party and subscribe. I'll see you back here for more Skyrim in the next episode. And as always, thank you so much for watching.